Welcome to the Your Life Rocks podcast, where we believe life balance is possible. Yes, even for you. This show is designed to help working moms focus on the things that matter most in life and helping you balance all that life has for you with practical tips from one working mom to another. My name is Jenny Semmerman, and I am so glad that you are here to hang out with me today. All right, so I have to start off by asking you a question. What does your ideal week look like? Yes, not your actual week, not what's going on today or what happened last week, but your ideal week, that week that you wish was every week, that intentional week that you have mapped out in your head. That is exactly what we are going to be covering together today. We are going to be talking about what it looks like for you, how to plan for it, and most importantly, how to actually live it out, like it's going to actually happen, which is probably the most important part of all of this, right? It's going to be a great conversation, and really this exercise is part of our Rebalance audio course that we offer, and it's also going to be part of a new 7-day course that I'm creating right now for our Life Balance members. It's designed to be done in your very first 7 days as a member. And then after that, you will go into our Bible study. Right now, you start off with the Bible study, but sometimes when you come in to Life Balance membership, you're really looking for that immediate relief, immediate organization, and that is what's going to cover in this first 7 days. And don't worry, because, you know, I'm a big believer that the only way that balance is possible is through Christ Jesus. So he is going to be a big part of that first 7-day part of the process as well. So for our members listening to the show, the course will be coming out in April, and I could not be more excited to bring it to you. It really is designed to help you find that immediate relief, to help you create balance right away. And it's just one of the many enhancements that you can expect to see in the coming months from Life Balance membership. Now, if you are not yet a member, but you kind of want to check it out, you can start a free 7-day trial by going to lifebalancemembership.com. There's also other options where you can join quarterly or however you want to. We want to make sure it fits into your lifestyle. Now, if you are new to the show, let me say welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you found us. If you are a working mom, this show is for you. That's regardless of what you do for work. This show is for you. Maybe you work from home. Maybe you work in a corporate office. Maybe you work for yourself. Maybe you're like me and you do all of the above because you are a little bit of a crazy person. But this show is definitely for you and for all kinds of moms too. You know, in our community, we have single moms, we have traditional moms, we have moms to little kids, moms to teenagers, and moms to everything in between. This show is still for you because here at Your Life Rocks, we believe that working mom life is pretty great and full of a lot of blessings from God. Now, it can feel stressful at times, but that's why we talk a lot about mindset, we talk a lot about order, we talk a lot about time management, and we talk a lot about life balance because we truly believe that counter to what you're going to hear to everyone else in this world, we believe that balance is actually possible when you seek it through God, because the Bible tells us all things are possible through Him. So balance in our lives should be possible through Him as well, right? That's kind of the foundation of the show. It's the foundation of our membership. It's the foundation of everything that we do. Now, I would love to connect with you within our Facebook group. So if you go to yourliferocks.com, probably the easiest way to get connected, you can click on that community tab and it will take you direct access from there right into our Facebook group. And while you're there at yourliferocks.com, you can look around, you can sign up for a free course, learn more about the mission that we are on and all that we do. And you can, if you want to, you can even learn a little bit more about me. All right. So now as we are talking about balance, a huge part of life balance truly is time management. What are you actually doing with your time? Because there's a lot of things you could be doing with your time. There's a lot of things you probably are doing with your time. But we have to kind of have that reality check. Like, is this way that I'm using my time really contributing to having more balance in my life? Is it really contributing to the life that I want to live, the life I want to build, the life I want to design for myself? Because sometimes we can get caught in like this hamster wheel of life where we're just kind of going through one day after another and not necessarily living with intention. We might want to be living with intention, but it's a totally different thing to want to live in intention and to actually be living in intention. They are very different, and you can see it in your life. So if you are kind of like, I feel like I want to live more intention, then that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So again, I'm glad that you are here. All right, so let me ask you this. When we talk about time management, we talk a lot about being prepped for the week and planning ahead. So how do you actually plan your days, your weeks, your months? Or maybe it's a better question. Are you being proactive with your time or reactive with your time? You know, I've heard from so many different people who have taken our Rebalance course or in our Facebook group or even coaching clients that I have had in the past. They tell me that they put appointments on their calendar, but they don't actually plan anything else. Is that you? Like you kind of put those big rocks on your calendar, those big things that you can't forget, the meetings, but then the rest of your calendar is just white space, taking up nothing and nothing filling into them. And you know what? I am so guilty of doing the exact same thing. But when I do that, I definitely notice a vast difference in my productivity, my focus, and my energy. Now, I want you to think about this too, okay? So we often will have our calendar and we have our appointments on there and we kind of plan our days based off of that calendar. And then on a separate sheet of paper, or maybe it's the same sheet of paper, but definitely not in the same spot on that piece of paper, we make our to-do list. If you're like me, we make a lot of to-do lists. I have to-do lists on Post-it notes, to-do lists on dry erase boards and on loose pieces of paper and sometimes on the back of receipts. That for me is my processing mechanism, is to make lists. So I have got them everywhere. But this is the big difference that I have noticed that helps me really live in intention is when I look at my to-do list and I look at my calendar, when am I planning on doing that to-do list? I mean, if a calendar is designed to help us plan our day, to plan our hours, to plan our minutes, then are we planning to actually get that stuff done that's on that to-do list? Or are we just going to be carrying that to-do list over from one day to the next day to the next day until we decide that those things maybe aren't that worth it, right? Because we haven't done it yet, so let's just get rid of it. It's done. It's off the list. Or we've procrastinated so far that it doesn't even matter anymore because whatever it was is past. The event has passed. The urgency has passed, like whatever it is, right? When I'm saying this, I don't want you to think that I'm talking about planning every second of every single day and living this like really rigid life, because that's not what this is about at all. But it's really thinking about how can I pencil things in? How can I structure my day in a way that provides balance, in a way that really speaks to the things that matter most to me, my goals, my priorities in my life. I'm talking about scheduling in time for things like being with God. Is that on your calendar? What about taking care of your body? Whether that is working out or getting a massage or whatever that looks like for you. What about taking care of your house? You know, sometimes we clean in like these little moments that we have, or we say, I'll do it on Saturday, but we don't actually put it on our calendar to take care of our house. And then things come up and then we feel guilty because the house isn't taken care of. Or if you're like me, it just stresses me out when the house is not taken care of. What about being with your kids or your spouse? Do you have that time set aside on your calendar? You know, God tells us that there is a time for everything, and it's important that we dictate our time, or our time is just going to turn around and dictate us. It's going to rule over us. It's going to loom over us, and it's going to control us versus us controlling it. So here at Your Life Rocks, Life Balance Membership, we talk about 8 different areas of life. And we talk about setting goals in all 8 of these areas of life. And that's really what our Bible study, Setting Goals in God's Will inside the membership, is all about. Really looking with intention of what do we really want our life to look like for our faith, for our marriage and parenting, our career, our home, our health, our finances, and with our friends and fun. Like really creating a vision that aligns with God's vision and His will for all of those areas. So it really starts with that goal setting process of getting clear about what it is you actually want in your life, what that looks like in your life. Because, you know, God is very clear in the Bible in what we should be looking like as parents, right? Or even as wives. He gives a lot of illustrations on what that looks like. But everyone's situation is a little bit different. So what that looks like for me might be very different than what that looks like for you as far as the actual application. I'm talking about the details, the actions, how you live that out, right? So for me, and I touched on this, I think last week, maybe it was the week before that, I work for my husband in one of my jobs. I also have a full-time corporate career, but I also do the marketing for our family business. And for me, yes, we are legally co-owners of the business, but in my mindset, I work for my husband. And so the way that I show respect to him is by saying I work for my husband, because he is the one who is there each and every single day. He is the one who has the final say. He is the CEO of the company, of the business. And there's a lot of reasons why we set it up that way. But from a biblical standpoint, that looks different for me in our relationship, in the way that I live that out, than maybe you do with your husband and your situation and how you live that out. You know, we have a lot of people in our community that have stepchildren. They have bonus children that came with their husband. So what does that relationship look like? It's going to look different for you in how you parent those kids versus maybe biological kids, or maybe it doesn't. Again, every situation is very different. But what the Bible tells us is very clear and kind of overarches as an umbrella over all of those situations that can really bring down that truth and life into each one of our situations. But with that being said, what is our goal? How are we seeing ourselves live out the Word of God in those areas of our life, given all of those differences? And that's really where we have that Bible study. We have some courses to help you get really clear on what those goals are. But even if you're not a member, you probably have a pretty good sense for what you want your life to look like as far as health, like health goals, right? Everyone's got health goals nowadays on what they want that to look like. Maybe you have very clear career goals or very clear financial goals. I would encourage you to look at all 8 areas of life and get really, really clear. But now here's the question. Once you have those goals set, does your calendar reflect your goals? So for example, if I were to get your planner from last week or 2 weeks ago or even a month ago, and I were to open it up, would I be able to study it for a few minutes and be able to say, okay, I know what's important to you. I can see it right here. And I would be able to tell you what your priorities are. I would be able to tell you what your goals are. Would I be able to do that? If the answer is no, then we got to go back. You got to go back, because our calendars should be reflecting our goals, because the only way that we're going to get to our goal is by the choices that we make and how we're spending our time. What is the measure of that? Our calendar. Do you see how all of this fits together? So what I just shared in that kind of story of going back to your calendar, that's a very reactionary. Obviously, you can't go back and change time, right? So it's all about moving forward. From this day forward, what does the rest of this week look like for you? Is it going to be in alignment with your goals? What about next week? What about next month? What are you doing to chart that course to help you move closer to your goals? That is exactly what we talk about when we talk about this idea of having an ideal week. All right, so I'm going to give you an exercise to kind of work this out and bring it to life, okay? So number 1, we talked about getting really clear about what our intentions are, what our goals are. How do we want to be spending our time, right? And even in there, there's a couple different steps, because it's one thing to say, this is what my goal is, but then there's certain actions you have to take in order to get from where you are now to where you want to go, right? So there is definitely a process in there. And unfortunately, we can't get too deep into all of that on this podcast. And a lot of it is kind of visual. But if you do take our free weekly success planning course, you can find that on yourliferocks.com or go to weeklysuccessplanning.com. And inside that course, there is a section in there on goal setting. It's a completely free course that you can have. Or again, if you're inside the Life Balance membership, then you probably already know what your goals are, because we have a lot of courses in there to help you get very, very clear on that. All right, so once we have that, now let's move forward into this exercise. Now, if you are a member of our Life Balance membership, I'll be sending you an email. Actually, probably have already had it by the time this goes live, with a link to a calendar that you can use for this exercise, and I'll kind of walk you through that. But if you're not a member, you can use a blank piece of paper, your notebook, or you can just, go onto Google and just type in blank calendar, and you'll find something that will work for you, I promise. Okay, so this is the exercise. I want you to take that blank calendar for the next 7 days, and I want you to schedule your time how you would ideally like it to be. Now, for those of you that are out there listening that are very much realist or even pessimist, you're going to tell me, but life is not going to turn out this way. I know it's not going to turn out that way, but we still want to plan with intention. We want to shoot and aim in a certain direction, knowing that it might vary, right, from side to side. If you are going to be shooting an arrow, you're going to be aiming for that very center of the target, right? You know, a wind might come along and catch it and guide it to one side or the other, but we're still going to aim straight forward. Now, if you know the wind is going to come, then you can adjust your aim so you can still hit to where you want to go. But for an ideal week, we are just shooting straight ahead and looking at what it is that we want to hit. What is the target for how we want to spend our time? So when you are doing this exercise, you're just really mapping it out. I recommend using a pencil like I do with everything, because sometimes as we're in the middle of stuff, we change our mind, and we have the right to change our mind. We have the freedom to change our mind. We have the grace to change our mind. So do it in pencil so you can make those adjustments, right? And how you're spending your time and what it is that you are wanting to do. So as you're looking at this blank calendar, really think about those goals. Think about the tasks necessary to reach those goals, and think about all of the things that need to be done in order to reach that. And yes, this exercise is going to take a little bit of time to go through, but it is so worth it. Just turn on some music, make yourself a cup of tea or whatever, and have this part of your me time, right? The time that you are really pouring back into yourself. Maybe you make this part of your next weekly planning session that you're doing. Maybe you just do it on a Friday night, right? But map this out. Now, like I said a couple episodes ago, life is very different for me right now than it was a couple months ago. I've taken on a couple new projects, and really just life has kind of turned itself upside down, and glory to God for everything that He's provided for us. But I do know that balance comes when I have some routines in my life, and I can stay on top of things, and I can do all kinds of things when I have the right systems. And this is really the first step in creating that system. So for me, I'm doing this, and this is what triggered me to be like, oh, I should probably talk about this on the podcast because it is so helpful. But for me to just outline what my ideal week looks like. What time would I ideally want to be getting up in the morning? It's a great place to start. What time do you want to get up? How much time are you devoting to your morning routine? What things are you including in your morning routine, or would ideally like to include in your morning routine? Going from there, what time do you need to get ready for work? What time do you need to get the kids up if that's something that you need to do? What time do they need to be at school? Do you need to be at work? You can kind of go through hour by hour by hour and just be thinking about what is going to move me closer to my goals, what things have to be done, right? Like I can say, you know, I would move a lot closer to my goals if I didn't have to go to work every day, but then that's not necessarily going to help my career goals, right? And that's where we come into balance. So we have certain things we have to do, but how can we maximize all of that time in order to help us reach our goal? So once you have it kind of all mapped out, your entire day, and you're really walking hour by hour through the things you have to do, the opportunities where you can do the things you want to do, and you put it all out there, then it's the next step to kind of step back and to review and to look and say, okay, what do I have on here? Do I have on here my time with God? Do I have on here time with my spouse? Do I have time on here with my kids for my career, where I'm taking care of my body, where I'm taking care of the house? And it could be just like 15 minutes after you know you're going to walk through the door from work, where you plan on doing a power cleaning in your house for 15 minutes. That's totally fine. Now, here's the trick though. If you're looking at this and you find, okay, I don't have anything in here around my finances. I don't have anything in here around my home or around my kids or around whatever, any one of those 8 areas of life. The next step is you have to find time for those on your calendar. You have to map it in, because if you're not going to intentionally seek out that time, it's never going to happen. We have to be intentional about seeking it out, about planning out and making it very intentional part of our life. So it doesn't have to be anything big. Sometimes we can go all or nothing with our thinking, right? So for example, if you're looking at your calendar and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything on here really for my health, where I'm taking care of working out or moving my body or anything like that. You can easily look at that and say, okay, so I'm going to add in an hour of workout after the kids go to bed. every single day of the week. That way it's on my calendar and it's there. But is that really realistic for you? Going from maybe it's not on your calendar at all to an hour after the kids go to bed. How are you actually feeling an hour after your kids go to bed? For me, I'm already asleep an hour after my kids go to bed. Once they're in bed, I'm like down for the day. That's like my decompression time, do my nighttime routine, and I go to sleep because I'm a very early riser. But that's my life, right? So you have to figure out what works best for you. But maybe for you, it's like 3 days a week. You're going to get in a 30-minute walk or a 30-minute exercise, or maybe it's just like a 15-minute. Maybe you compile a different things, right? So one of the things that I'm going to be starting to do is 3 days a week, I've scheduled in a walking date with one of my friends. So it's a chance for me to connect with one of my friends at the same time that I'm helping to reach my physical goals with my body. Or if you're doing the power cleaning thing, which I'm a huge fan of doing, by the way, you're cleaning your house and you're working out your body at the same time. And you're not sure what I'm talking about, I've talked about it before in other episodes, so go on back, or you can go to the website and just search power cleaning, and some of those episodes, those show notes will pop up for you. So there's always those opportunities for us to find time to fit all of those in, all right? So number one, we got clear about what it is we want and our goals, right? Of what an intentional life looks like for us. Number two, we mapped it out in pencil so we can adjust, right? So number three is adjusting. Step number three is adjusting to make sure it's all on the calendar. So at this stage in the process, 3 steps in, you should have, your calendar pretty much lined out. What time you wake up, what time you go to bed, all of the stuff in there, when you're spending time with your husband. And I would even challenge you, like during your work day, because you might have like, okay, from this chunk of time to this chunk of time, I'm at work. And so we kind of can funnel that off and set it aside. But what things can you do at work? Like, what are you doing to push forward for your career goals while you're at work? What things are you doing at your work that, honestly, like sometimes, because life gets crazy and busy, I schedule in like texting with my husband, like a little flirtatious text, not a, hey, can you pick up this on your way home kind of a text, right? Like something that's actually going to give life to my marriage. It's scheduled in. It'll take me 5 minutes to do it, probably less, but it's in my work day. So don't always like section off that time and think this time is not available for me to help to reach my goals. And again, it doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be anything small. You can tell I can talk about this forever because I've gone back now into the details of this. So moving back out. Okay. Getting myself back on track. Sorry about that. All right. So step number 3, we're reviewing. Step number 4 is really about making it happen. Right? So like I said, this is a great plan. You could have it all on paper. It looks great. You have all your areas in there. You feel awesome. The next day happens and you don't do it. So did it actually help you find more balance in your life? No. Now you just feel guilty because you've started something else that you haven't finished. And that is not great. We don't want you to feel guilty. We want you to have a healthy mindset about this. We want you to empower you to move closer to balance. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is a whole week going to be right on target? No. Will a day be on target? Maybe. Possibly. Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends. It depends on your discipline level and how much you want to have a balanced life, which, again, we've talked about before. You have to want balance. You have to be willing to let go of the chaos and your identity to the chaos in order to find balance, okay? So just going to say that there. I am on a bunny trail run today. Cannot stay on topic. Okay, let's focus. So as we're talking about living this out, this is where smartphones are your very best friend. I want you to go into, if it's comfortable for you to do it right from your smartphone, awesome. If you want to go onto your computer and set it up that way, then totally do it. But go into your calendar. So for me, I use Google, so I am a Google Calendar user. I'm going to go into my Google Calendar. I'm going to set up a new calendar in there in my profile that is labeled Ideal Week. And I'm going to map all this out, and I'm going to have it in a different color. So it's different than all my other appointments and everything else, but it's going to be in there as a reminder. So when I'm looking at my phone, when I'm looking at my day, I can see like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be texting my husband, a little flirtatious little text, or my kids. I wanted to spend more time with them at their bedtime to really be able to debrief their day and talk to them. So like it's their bedtime in 30 minutes. I need to make sure I'm doing that now. Now, if you are a stubborn person, and I say that with the most love in my heart because I'm a stubborn person too, I have to set alarms because I have to be reminded of these new habits and behaviors that I want to do. And so you can set alarms to those different tasks. And if you need to, you can even attach your goal or even a consequence if you don't do those things. Whatever motivates you. Some people are more motivated by the positive. Some people are motivated by the negative. I call it the carrot or the stick. You're either going to be motivated by the carrot or you're going to be motivated by the stick. And for me, I'm a mixture of both depending on what the topic is, right? So put those in there on your reminders. So when it pops up, you're less likely to hit snooze on that reminder because it's letting you know right then and there. You will regret not spending this time with your kids. That's literally what one of my reminders on my phone says. You will regret not spending time with your kids because it is truth. And I need to hear that truth in my life in order for me to take hold of it and be disciplined and live intentionally in the way that I know God wants me to be living, right? So those are your 4 steps of really being intentional and about creating that ideal week for yourself. Now, you can add in that 5th step. This is a challenge for those of you that like that extra credit work. You can add in a 5th step to come back after your first week of living this out and review. Say, okay, what went well? What didn't go so well? Because sometimes we have it in our head of what we think like this would be ideal. This is what I want to be doing. This is how I want to be living my life. And then you start living that way and you're like, hold up, take that back. This is not actually what I wanted to be doing. I did not want to be working out during my lunch break because then I feel sweaty and stinky afterwards. Like you'll kind of get to know the realities of some things after a week or a couple weeks of doing this, and you can adjust it because it is your life. It is your plan. It's your intention. But as long as you're doing something for yourself, I think that's really what matters. And giving yourself that freedom to adjust and give yourself grace and know that, there are going to be some days that are just completely out of whack. And that's okay because we have a plan now to get right back on track. Now, one of the things that we do just about every single episode is we bring a Bible verse into our conversation. One, because I feel like we need to bring God more into every part of our life, even the podcasts that we are listening to. But 2, I really think it's important that we're tying what we're teaching right back into the Word of God because really, I can't say that balance starts with God and then I leave God out of it, right? It just doesn't make sense. There's no integrity there. And, there's so many verses that talk about planning, about being diligent, about being disciplined that I could be spouting off. But the reason why I chose the verse that I chose for this episode is because sometimes it's just not as simple as planning and doing, right? There are old habits, there's psychology, there's all kinds of things that can get in the way of us actually doing what it is that we feel like we need to be doing or the things that we want to be doing, the things we feel like we should be doing, right? And so the verse that I wanted to share with you today is Proverbs 14:8. And in the King James Version, it reads, "The wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving." And another translation of the same verse, this is from the Message, "The wisdom of the wise keeps life on track. The foolishness of the fools lands them in the ditch." And so when I read this, it's one thing to say, yes, it's wise to kind of plan and have your life on track. And if you don't, then you'll land in the ditch. But really, it's where does wisdom come from? Wisdom comes from the Lord. And so again, we're going right back to putting God first, following his wisdom for what he wants in your life and making sure that your life really is a reflection of that. As the Bible tells us that we will be known by our fruit. And that fruit comes from the wisdom. It's what people see when they look at us. And so when we talk about, planning that ideal week and putting some order to things in our life, it is so that we can be moving forward towards those goals, so that we can be that shining light, so that when people see us, they see like there's something different about you. Now, I hope that you got some value from today's episode. And if you did, I would love it if you would share it with a friend or a family member, a coworker, someone who you feel like would really benefit from the message of what we're talking about here when we talk about life balance and working moms have an awesome life. If you have someone who just needs that encouragement or is just really looking for those practical tips to get through all of the things that life has for us, then share this episode with them. And if you don't have someone in mind, if you could just leave us a review on iTunes, I know it's not always the easiest thing to do. So if you do, I am so eternally grateful, but it really is a great way of helping other people find our show. When people leave a review, iTunes assumes people like the show, and so it will recommend it to other people. Without those reviews, they don't do that, and they keep it very hidden. So it really is very much appreciated. And we would love to hang out with you inside of our Facebook group. You know, today is Friday the 9th, and so our guest, Lindsay Young, who we had on last week, she's doing a Facebook Live, giving even more value inside of our Facebook group. So it's just another great reason to join. Now, if you're looking for some more tools to help you create more balance in your life, I want to invite you to check out Life Balance Membership. You can start your free 7-day trial by going to lifebalancemembership.com. Now, next week, we are going to be talking about communication and getting to know yourself even more and how you communicate with the world through color codes. So I know you're not going to want to miss it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe so you do not miss a single one of our upcoming episodes. And until then, keep building a life that rocks. Bye.